We're live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Performance Scrutiny Committee for Partnerships. Before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. This Scrutiny Committee is being conducted remotely in accordance with the coronavirus regulations and the remote meetings protocol agreed by the Council, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Can I request that you all switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise and to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Can I also remind members to ensure that their chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. Might I also remind members that we are here to talk about the reports that are in front of us and no operational issues. Thank you very much. Right, let's get on to the agenda. What do I need to write? Give me a second. Okay, first is apologies.
Councillor John Jones and Councillor Vega Western.
Brilliant. And then do we have any declarations of interest?
I registered my Democratic Services for the two groups I chair.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm just scrolling up, sorry. Next on is the minutes of the last meeting. We're going to move those to the end of the meeting so that you guys can get through what you need to and go over your tea and stuff. So that's fine. So item 4 is the North Joint Venture Partnership. Do you want to introduce yourselves and who's going to present for us?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So I'm Chris McLean, as you know. So part of my service area is managing the client side of the North JV relationship, which is obviously the director. So we have with us tonight 3 colleagues from North who will take us through the report, which reflects on the JV's performance and achievements last year. Lyndon, do you want to introduce your slide?
Absolutely, yeah, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, I'm Lyndon Watkins, Managing Director for Newport North. My colleagues Mark McSweeney and Sarah Davis are the senior managers at North alongside me. We have been to Scrutiny before. This is the 3rd year we've attended, so for some of you will be familiar, for some newer members to this committee we won't. So shall I go straight in?
Yeah, that would be great. I should remind everyone that before we go ahead that we're not allowed to talk about any future plans or operational things surrounding the North. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so as I said, thanks very much for the invitation, first of all. As I said, this is probably the 3rd year in a row Mark and I have attended. We received some feedback last year from the previous committee. Really, last year we talked a lot in detail about a lot of stuff, some of it operational. What we've tried to do in the report this year, which my colleague Mark has authored, is focus more on some social value, so that you understand what we do in terms of that. But since we last met, the contract, sort of a year ago, the Council has kindly extended the contract until the 31st of December 2025, and the commercial terms of that arrangement are slightly altered to favour the Council. So now in any value share arrangement, the Council receives 156,000, thereafter the profits are shared 50-50. So in terms of the, obviously you've had a copy of the report. I'll just pick out some highlights for you, and obviously at the end, happy to answer questions at the end if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you. So
last year, our sort of busiest year on record, our turnover increased to £25 million. So when you think of the context when we set out, turnover was going to be around £6 to £7 million. We planned for last year to have a turnover around probably around £18 million, but we just had we had demand everywhere across all service areas. That generated a value of around £1.5 million, of which the rebate to the council last year will be just under £700,000. So that's way in excess of the targets that we set at the beginning of the year. I think our target gross was about 1.1 million and we achieved 1.5. And it's not all about numbers and money, but that just puts into context sort of how busy it was and the efforts of my colleagues, who've been absolutely superb, to be honest. And I sort of just take the opportunity to remind colleagues and members that those people that work for North are actually all residents. In the largely, I think sort of 80% of our people are within a few miles of Newport, based, so it sort of reflects well on the city itself. The report picks out some of our sort of key business objectives for next year, or this current year we're in, because we're already more than halfway through it. And believe it or not, the busyness that we had last year has continued into this year, and it has in fact increased. So the targets for this year are actually to build the business further in 2023-24, well, that'll obviously happen. Obviously, given the discussion we've had recently a couple of times on the colleagues in the council, so you know, when the JV was set up, it was set up in a different time and a different place. Things have changed. I don't even think we used the word social value to describe things in 2014, to be honest with you. So now it's about developing our approach alongside the council, and we'll come on a little bit more to that in a few minutes. We also have to continue to develop the systems that underpin the business. We also invest hugely in training alongside that. We targeted this year to employ 3 new apprentices. We have already done that. So potentially, if we can, we'll look to employ more. We key to our business is the people that work for us, and as I said, they're mostly residents of the city themselves. And what we're very keen to do is try to make sure that they've got good morale, staff satisfaction, but also some clear career pathways for those that want those in terms of training and development. And what we found is that sometimes it's very difficult to recruit at a senior technical and professional level. So what we're always seeking to do is to train those people through the business, bring people in at the bottom end of the business, invest in training. And we've got a number of examples of that within the business where somebody might come in to work on the help desk. And got a young lady that's with us that's now actually an estates graduate. Just transferred over from that. We had somebody come in on a government-sponsored scheme who's now working within our compliance team, came in for a temporary contract. So we're always looking to how we can bring those people through, nurture them and develop them, because they're really good for our business and they bring a lot of sort of energy and enthusiasm to the business. So we're keen to continue to building those pathways. We're also, some of these things are obviously cross over then into the social value aspect. So things like net zero, obviously the council's got targets for that. We're a main supplier, so we're contributing to that. We've introduced electric vehicles into our fleet. I think we've now got 4. We're looking to increase that this year. They've been introduced over the last 12 months. So in terms of sort of building social value, there's quite a detailed piece in the papers about that. And Mark, my colleague Mark Sweeney, has worked really closely with your procurement team, Richard Lee, who heads up your procurement service. And essentially, we've looked at the themes, opportunities and measures that you've adopted as a council, and we've adopted some of those for ourselves and hence contribute to yours. We've then, within the report, we've quantified that social value. And essentially, for every pound of turnover that we produce, 72 pence of social value has been created. Now, that's using your sort of indicators, your statistics, your formula within our report. So between us, last year we created, believe it or not, £17.9 million worth of social value. Now, I sort of had to double check it when I read it. And when we put the numbers through, it was quite phenomenal, really. So within the report, there's some details around what they are. it is in its embryonic stages with for the council itself and with us, in sort of learning how that's going to evolve over time. But it's a really, I think it's a really good start, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come as we develop it over the next year or so. We've also included in the papers a case study on days like school. Some of you will be more familiar than others with it. And then again, that identifies the social value that's created by really the partnership between the council, Norse, and the construction partner, Wilmot Dixon. And there's some really good, interesting statistics in there in terms of social value, pounds spent locally, the education that generates. So that social value aspect has been much more, it captures some of the things we already do as a business, but it also indicates some things we need to do more of. So we're keen to work there with council colleagues over the next 12 months and keep developing that. Alongside continuing to deliver the services that we do. We capture sort of compliments and complaints on a regular basis. Had some discussion and scrutiny around that in the past. We've had some fantastic feedback over the last 12 months. We've also had some complaints. So we front up, and where we're wrong, we admit, where there's something that people are right, we look to put it right. But the whole thing is about some continuous improvement in terms of service delivery, ensuring that we are providing the services the council wants us to provide. Because obviously there's a prioritisation process, there's a finite amount of resource, and where we target our resources is really important. And obviously key for the council in this year is the asset rationalisation process, and we are working alongside the council colleagues in that. So I think that's a very sort of whistle-stop tour of where we've been, what we're doing. There's a lot of detail in the papers, and myself and my colleagues have to answer any questions members might have.
That's great, thank you very much, thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. We'll go around the room one by one, because that seems to work quite nicely for us. But before we start, and I know Matt's going to pick up on social value, I just took a query on page 8 of your report, and the first 2 lines, we've got a number of direct employees hired or retained with Newport City Council, and we attribute 4 million of social value there. And then we've got a number of employees hired or retained in the Cardiff Capital Region. We've got 5.4.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the Newport employees be counted within the Cardiff Capital Region, and is there not double up there? If not, would that not show us that there are less employees if they are separated and you pull them out? And the second line is the rest of the Cardiff Capital Region. That would look like there are less employees from Newport than there are from other regions. So is it been double counted, or is it?
Well, the definitions that we've used are the ones that the council have adopted.
Fine. So
essentially, this has come down from the WJC to the council. Council have selected 45 of these towns. Out of that 45, there's this list here that applies to us. So we're just filling in the blanks in terms of the definitions. So
would that show us then that less than 50% of employees are from Newport?
Well, there's 147 within the Newport City Council boundary,
yeah,
and 199.
So there's probably a bit of double counting within the total.
So there's a bit of double counting within the total. So just as could we have an update on that total when you guys are able to? Because obviously that will change the social value.
I don't think there is.
There's not, is there?
I don't think there is, because we employ over 300 people.
Yeah, sorry, that's my.
Yeah.
It isn't.
Fine. So the number of people employed in the Newport boundary is decreased from where it was?
No, essentially we've got only one employee that's employed outside the Cardiff Capital Region. Then,
yeah.
So you've got the 147 in Newport, and another 199 outside of that within the Cardiff Capital.
So
that's less than 80% of your employees are from the Newport area.
Yeah, and of course it depends how you define the Newport area, because Sarah, for example, is from Risca.
Yes, so she's not from Newport. Yeah, this specifically says the Newport City Council boundary, doesn't it? Yeah. So she's not from within the Newport City Council boundary.
So the important thing for us was, and then someone know this, that when the council adopted the social value toms in March 23, we've essentially dovetailed into that. So this information goes up into the council now as one of the council's main suppliers. And the reason as well then for providing the detail around an individual project is that the toms achieved on those projects then are fed up through procurement as well.
I just wanted to check that figure on individual counties and to get our figure, just so we can establish in our heads how many employees are from the Newport City Council area. So it's about 45%, 40% from the Newport City Council area. Fab. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Pat, consider how was you, please? That's okay.
Thank you, Chair. And can I ask, please? I mean, there's a really impressive increase in turnover during the last year. 7 million on 17 or 18 million. How does that reflect large projects like Basilic?
It wouldn't include, Basilic, we only provide professional services on Basilic. So that wouldn't be, that helps the turnover, but that's not the driver of turnover. In some instances, we act as main contractor as well. So on the project, there's a Charles William Schools in Killeen, for example, all of the money to do with it, because that's a DICE school. There was a long discussion between us and the council in terms of how that grant funding would be handled. And all of that money has flowed through NORS. So I can't remember what the size of that project is, 4 or 5 million?
Yeah, there's, somewhere over 3, closer to 3.
Okay, so that turnover has flowed through the business. And we've had a few projects like that where we've acted as main contractor, and that's increased the turnover. Now, there isn't necessarily some of that is almost like a pass-through, and so there isn't necessarily the same impact on profit because we don't profit from all of that.
As regards value for money, the rebate to Newport City Council this year was something like 700,000. How does that compare with what has gone back to Norwich?
So up until this year, so last year was the last one under the old calculation where Norwich used to take the first 156,000, then things were shared 50-50. What we've done with the extension period and earlier, because the council signed the extension, we flipped that. So the council, now going forward, the council gets the first 156. Norse Group then would get 50-50 of the residual. So it works out now about 55-45 in favour of the council. It used to work similarly in front of it, that way around for Norse.
So in money terms?
So they would get about 800,000.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thanks for screen.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just looking at people. I think, if I remember last time, we did ask about diversity and equality data, producing some data on breakdown of male, female, ethnicity and so on, just to show how diverse the workforce actually is. And that seems to be missing from the report.
Yeah, apologies for that. Sure, you are right. It has been referenced by Scrutiny in the past, and we can include that data going forward. And there's probably data we can share with the client team on a regular basis as well, to be honest. There's no mystery in it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, we've probably forgotten. Apologies.
I remember last time you did say that I asked about female employees, and I think you mentioned that the digital view getting females into the construction industry, which I understand, but what's the sort of ratio?
So of our business, we have between 300 and 320 employees. The great majority of them will be females, but a lot of those females will be employed in more of the operational activity. However, I think over the last year, most of our hires in the business in the office have actually been female. So I'm happy to provide the stats. We'll do that after the meeting and get that circulated. Apologies for that. But certainly, we're predominantly a female employer at the moment. In terms of other diversity, we're not that diverse, to be honest. We probably reflect the council.
It would be great as well, sorry, just to add to that, if you can see something, a gender pay gap, I appreciate that's a challenge because lots of your employees are in some part-time jobs and all that sort of stuff, but just, I think we discussed that last year, so
Yeah,
it would be quite interesting.
The group itself did capture gender pay gap information probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm not sure at that time that we were included in that because we're working previously with 2 different companies within the group.
Oh, okay.
So I'll need to check that.
Yeah, that's fine, if it's available, we can see.
Just one other point, Chair. About pay, I noticed in the report you say percentage of the staff on the real living wage are specified by the Living Wage Foundation. Okay. Yeah, so we've got 100%. So it's good to see that all staff are getting the real living wage.
So to be fair, that's a condition of the contract that the council set out originally. That was one of the things that the council sought to protect when we embarked on this journey.
Great.
Yes. And LGPS.
Or staff have access to the other things.
In terms of pay as well, you'll probably find if we benchmark our pay at a technical and professional level, we probably pay more than the similar local authorities, certainly for senior technical and professional jobs, because those resources are scarce. We have a bit more flexibility in being able to attract those staff. So our own recruitment and retention is always a challenge, but it's not as much of a challenge as if we worked with it. Because I've managed within a local authority prior to this, and I understand the constraints.
Yeah.
And one thing I think is worth adding, last year we've done a pay review of the technical and craft staff on the tools, and on top of the NJC award, we awarded the staff an extra 5% pay rise to bring them into line with local, what we were seeing.
We benchmark those locality rates.
So we benchmark the labour rates and ensure that the guys are paid competitively.
Thanks. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, what I'd like to ask is, I've got 2 questions actually. How do you capture the information, the feedback that you get, how you track them?
So we've got in a number of ways. So where we have operation staff that are on the tools, for want of an old-fashioned phrase, and they go out and undertake jobs on site, there is a feedback mechanism on their handhelds where the client can give immediate feedback. We also we also regularly follow those up with paper surveys. We do an annual survey every year. It's happening right now, where we go out to our customers in schools and in other council premises in terms of asking for feedback. Now, the group has run that traditionally in the past, but it sort of fell into abeyance from the group's perspective. The Wyden sort of Norse group, probably a couple of years ago, but we've continued to run it locally ourselves. So where then we get feedback where, with something like that tends to be either really good or thinking that we dropped the ball here somewhere. So in the occasions where we may have dropped the ball, those complaints or issues are fully investigated. We go out, we send a member of staff that's independent of the operations team out, because it's very easy to be different. If you're the head of cleaning and you have a cleaning complaint, you're going to be defensive. So we send somebody out alongside that person to be sort of broker that independently, investigate what's going on, and then if necessary put an action plan in place. And we get very few of those, to be honest. I think last year it was about 4 or 5 from the annual survey. But we're just going through that now, so we'll discover now again what that brings over the next month or so, to be honest. So we've got quite a few mechanisms for that. And besides that, I go out and visit places. I had the pleasure of visiting a non-Newport school recently, where we do business with, and the head was very expressed great satisfaction with one of my colleagues, to such an extent that the site manager's wife was baking him a Christmas cake for Christmas. Highly unusual, but it's all, you know, feedback comes in all shapes and forms.
That's it. I mean, it all too well is usually the bad feedback that we get to hear about. What I'm pleased about as well, actually, is the fact that you do paper-based feedback as well. Because I find with a lot of companies now it's all online, and there's a generation that are not online but still use your services. So it's nice that the feedback comes from them as well.
So when we get good feedback, we quarterly have reward and recognition ceremonies. So we have a lunch in our boardroom where those who have been mentioned in dispatches, shall we say, by the customer. We have a session quarterly where they're invited to a buffet lunch. We present colleagues with certificates, and I think it's a £25 voucher for, you know, good service, going above and beyond. And that goes down really well with colleagues and the staff. And sometimes if we can arrange it, we try and tie it in with some of the group visit, sort of the chief operating officer from the group if he's on site, so that they don't just see me, they see somebody else.
And that sounds really good as well, because it keeps them morale.
Well, interestingly,
it encourages them to do good work.
Yeah, it's a model that the group is now looking at and learning.
One other question I wanted to ask, Chair, if it's okay.
Is it on the same topic, Bev, or should we come back to it?
It's just regarding apprenticeships, really. Do you get those from the job centre?
We get them from everywhere. We do sessions with the job for recruitment generally. We do regular sessions with job centres. So we talk to our school colleagues as well. We're always really keen to get the very best people working for us.
We've got a scheme which will be running again this year with Careers Wales, where we've taken a couple of young people from schools who are not doing too well in their GCSEs. So initially they come to us 1 or 2 days a week. So then we put them with a tradesperson and they go around, and then particularly the one lad, he was doing really well and enjoyed it, so we extended up to 3 days a week, working with the school and Careers Wales, with a view then to give them an apprenticeship at the end of it. So that has been very successful, that scheme. So we need to do that. But we also have been setting 5 people through the Department of Work Pension Scheme, and all these available areas.
Wherever possible, just try and get the best people in our business.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Hussain?
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations first for your extension for 18 months of the Newport Council. I just wanted to ask that we've been now, working with city councils for many years now. I was wondering if there's any changes you've got planned with the partnership.
Yeah, I think that's all really tied in with some discussions about what happens next, really. And I don't really want to, I'm not going to get into that discussion too much. But yeah, I mean, we're always challenged by colleagues in the client team that, all right, you've done this, what are we going to improve? There's that discussion probably on a fairly regular basis, to be honest. So we're always looking there with sort of going to improve things. As I said, this was set up in a time that was different. So it's obvious that when social value has changed things, we've adapted to meet that. Now going forwards, again, I'm sure there are things that if we all set out again, we will probably do a little bit differently. And I think there'll be discussions about that, I'm sure, over the next 3 months as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Councillor Penn?
You mentioned apprenticeships then. What were the apprenticeships in?
They are electrical, mechanical, and carpentry.
We've got an extra electrical, so it's 2 electrical now. Yeah. So it's 4 in total.
And you mentioned last year that you started 3 apprenticeships, so over 2 years.
And we've got also an office apprentice as well.
Okay. So
we've used different schemes, so it's not just reliant on the apprenticeship scheme itself. So sometimes we've had people come on other work streams which we've managed to convert into posts. So yeah, it's around that sort of number, but it will vary.
Yeah.
What the limiting factor is being able to put them with people that can give the apprentice enough time in terms of tutoring and bringing them along and making sure it's good. We don't just want we don't want people just stood around and
and the apprenticeships reflect the type of work that you conduct, so that's good to see. Just rounding up the figures, you've had a turnover of 25 million, roughly, profit of 1.5 million. Within that, how much has inflation impacted on that turnover? Is it
yeah, that was significant because temporary construction inflation was 10% or something like that.
Well, yeah, and more and it depends, it's fluctuated. I think one of the problems we've had across South Wales, because there's been quite a lot of the 21st century schools, it's just the demand for building materials. I mean, on the base project, I haven't put it in there, but we had a situation where there was no loose cement anywhere in the UK, and we were waiting for a ship from Turkey to come before we could lay bricks. So all of that has caused us problems, but you know, you've got to try and work with that.
Yeah.
So inflation will be a factor because obviously, but again, we've seen running into this year. We've just done the accounts for the first 6 months of this year. The turnover in the first 6 months of this year is 15 million. Some of that will be inflation based.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it is actual works and orders. If you looked at the demand from schools, that's gone through the roof.
Yeah. So given that we're experiencing a cost of living crisis at the moment, the staff, your employees at the moment, how many full-time and part-time we've got on books roughly?
Well, it's 320 posts, something like that. It does fluctuate. Probably about 150 of those are part-time. Yeah. We've probably got, and again, when you say full-time, because I've got a range of people that work. Sarah, for example, works 4 days a week pattern for us. So we'll have people that range from 3 to 4. So it's difficult in terms of processing. It's not particular. You know, it is different.
Yeah. So during the past year, your employees had a pay rise in line with the rate of inflation.
Yeah. So
is that across the board?
They get the LGPS.
It's the NJC.
Sorry, the NJC rise, so that whatever the local authorities nationally agreed.
So the rise has just been agreed. Yeah. We pay and it'll be backdated. So in exactly the same fashion as the house.
Okay, great. Just one thing.
Can we come back round? Is that okay? Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Whitehead, have you got anything? Hello?
Yeah, just a couple of observations. Some have been covered. I mean, for me, it's always about apprenticeship numbers. I work for Amy, and it's something that Amy are very proud of, the numbers. I mean, I don't think there's a great amount of numbers of apprenticeships there, but I'd like to think that there's going to be a concerted effort to engage with the youth to further the numbers in apprenticeships. The other thing was, is the 1 point or the 1.5 year extension. Could that be seen as an indicator that maybe Newport City Council will eventually, and I don't mean terminate in a bad way, but will eventually...
Sorry, Councillor Whitehead, we can't talk about that situation at all at the moment.
What, regarding the contract?
Yes, regarding any renewals.
No, it's just an observation. Is it an indicator maybe that one day we go back to being a local authority to run our own assets? That's all that was. There was nothing controversial in it. The other thing was the selling of assets, because North has evolved greatly since the inception. I remember when it happened. Bear in mind, the Newport City Council used to be that good at running assets. A lot of people might remember they ran assets for other authorities back in the day. A lot of people know that. So I'm wondering whether there will come a time, and I'm not decrying North or anything, or the efforts of North, but Newport City Council would have done that for a reason, tended out for the North to run our assets. And I don't know whether that was they didn't feel they were up to it, or it was just a challenge of doing it. But now, having worked alongside North, and so to speak, that expertise will be there. And should there be a chance, because we're paying people ultimately to run our assets. This is what we used to do, you know. And everything comes back to, I suppose, our residents and getting a value for money. Because we are paying for a service here where what we could be doing ourselves ultimately. This is just something I'm bringing from conversations that I have, and they are only observations, as I say.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Tracy, do you want to?
Thanks. I just wanted to come in and say we didn't tender for the service. It is a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a joint venture, so that is
Yes,
sort of
thank you.
slightly different. And as members will know, the council will review options at the end of the JV, but that's not for discussion tonight. Because we need to do that sensitively and in collaboration.
Yeah, just supplementary to that, I'm aware it's a joint venture, but it wasn't when it was first incepted. Does that make sense, Tracy? Norse used to solely run our assets, didn't they?
No, so we're a joint venture. Been a joint venture since 2014. There's been no change in that status. So we manage the assets on the council's behalf. We also provide services to other local authorities, from which we make a profit that comes back into the JV. So we provide professional property services to Herefordshire County Council. We provide occasional valuation support to Little Northern and others from time to time. It's not a huge part of our turnover.
Okay.
If you looked in terms of that, it doesn't take a genius to work out 1.5 million on a 25 million turnover is about 6% gross profit. 3% goes back to the council. So taking out of that, when it skips to Norse is 3%. That's a lot lower than you would find in any normal commercial arrangement. What we have tried to do as well, in the old world, pre-Norse, you actually bought a lot of services from the private sector, but didn't actually share in any of the profit. What we are actually done over that, why the turnovers are great, we've actually insourced a lot more work back into Norse that used to go beyond us to solely the private sector. So that model will evolve, and I'm sure in the council's looking at options going forward, it'll consider all of that and come to a judgment about what's right for Newport in 2025, 26, rather than what was right for Newport in 2014.
Okay, I know Pat, you've got a couple of follow-ups, and Matt. Can I just ask one first? Is that okay? Mind please? When we met last year, I brought up the issue of the environment and how you guys align your environmental practices to the council's ambitions and environmental practices. You've said that you've added 4 electric vehicles, and in your social values thing, you mentioned 120 non-emission miles driven. I'm not sure how that works out, but I don't have to go into that. And then you say we've aligned our own sustainability strategy along the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and I couldn't find any net zero, any environmental policies anywhere for you guys. So I know that the Cardiff Capital Region requires you to buy products and services within a radius, that's fine, but I would really like to know some more of the ways that you're working to, help Newport achieve its net zero goals, particularly around things like the source of steel and all that sort of stuff. So are you able to give me any information on that?
Yeah, well, I sold 14,000 accredited.
Okay.
So we're audited on our environmental standard, against our environmental standard. Most of the people we employ as subcontractors are small businesses in the locality. So we try to keep things as local as possible. The issue over in terms of vans and renewal of the fleet, then, if you like, that's started and sort of gradually.
So we're tied into leases for a period of time as those leases fall in.
And it's quite, for vans, they can get to an 18-month waiting period now for electric vans and large.
We did have to beg those. What happened? There were some vehicles available elsewhere in the group, and because we'd installed charging in advance of what we were able to get people to attract those, so we got them ahead of our turn.
Okay.
Can I just add something to that?
Of course you can.
So we also understanding. So we have a regular JV meeting with most colleagues and Tracy's team, and the climate change is on that agenda.
Okay.
But also most colleagues are involved in. Well, we never go to the council's got a climate change strategy. And that involves a series of work streams, and most colleagues are involved in that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And of course, we are actually delivering some of the works as well.
Yeah.
Alongside that, So Ross Cutlet's been very good at getting grant funding and getting external sources of funding in, and sometimes we are the delivery vehicles.
I'm thinking of the more day-to-day things like plastics, the provenance of our goods, are we importing stuff from abroad when it's available here? Those kinds of things that are important, not only to the environment, but also, I know there's cardiac cancer, we just to the wider UK economy. So I was, thinking of it. Okay, thank you. Councillor Direct?
Chair, can I just ask Mark, you mentioned about cement and not being able to get cement. Has schools and anything within the council been impacted by RAC? How does this affect?
Yeah, only one school. So, and that was the benefit of having, we've got a building surveying team locally who were able to react very quickly. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
And within a week they surveyed the whole of the school's estate and then subsequently the rest of the estate. And there was one school that was found with RAC in it, which was outside the parameters of which Welsh Government had set. And that school reopened last week and the remedial works were completed over the weekend before. So yeah, it hasn't been impacted greatly.
And that was very low level risk. The RAC is usually found in roof structures. This RAC wasn't, and it was supported already by a great deal of steel support. So there was a lot of intensive work done around that. There'll probably be some more work done within that school in the future, but at the moment it's safe as a future proof.
Thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
I do.
Do you want to ask it?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay?
I think last year you mentioned about having liaison with client bodies like school governors.
Yeah.
How have you?
We provide training as well. Mark runs that.
Yeah, so I think it was about last month we had a governor's presentation. So we do that annually. There's a regular meeting with head teachers from primary and secondary heads.
Although that's been a little bit in abeyance because of the action just short of industrial action. So at the school's behest, we haven't held that recently, but up until then, it has been a regular thing.
So if you gave presentations to the Association of School Governing Body.
Yeah, and that's when they start as well.
Rather than individual school governors.
No, we don't tend to unless they want to.
We can, if people want us to come in, we're more than happy to come and talk to anyone.
I mean, they're the more formal sort of meetings that are set up, but we do ad hoc stuff all the time.
I think Councillor Joy, if you don't mind saying, just referring to the minutes from last year, where it said the committee were pleased to hear that North would attend school government meetings now.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff.
So yes, the forum that was set up, there was a particular forum being set up at that point, which we attended, and there's been ad hoc stuff since then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pym?
You mentioned in your report that you've given out £5,000 gifts in kind. Can you give some examples of those gifts?
So that's sort of schools, that's sometimes, so the group runs a system whereby if our staff are involved in community organisations or wherever, there is sponsorship given out at times. So that might be sort of football teams sponsorship that we've done, junior teams.
Any examples come to mind?
They've escaped me for now.
That 5,000 is related to the construction contract. So that at Baisley, is that the figure you're talking about?
Yeah, it's just
mentioned,
it just goes 5,000 gifts in kind, 5,000 value works and gifts in kind donated.
Yeah, so that was specifically on that project. And not necessarily through NOS. We do other sponsorship and vouchers to schools and things like that.
So we do stuff like, say, David's Hospice. Yeah, we support that. Our staff end, there's an annual bike ride. So we sponsor a team within that and enter that. We've done all sorts of, we've done some stuff within school, pantomime productions with this. Wanted some sponsorship and stuff like that, but low level type stuff. You're talking a sort of 50, £100 a time.
Yeah.
Type thing.
We sponsored the, it wasn't private right, it was another one. Locally, we sponsored an award at that, that was in Hilton. Okay, recently. And there's another armed forces one which we sponsored as well.
Okay, because at the bottom of your social value list on page 8, you've got a number of hours volunteering time provided to support local community projects. Again, is that the monetary value of £1,800? And is that based on your employees' kind of hourly rate? Or
Yeah,
is that time?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that we've done. So sometimes when we do projects, particularly small scale projects, sometimes there's a gap between what the aspiration of the end user is for a project and what the funds will allow.
Yeah.
So sometimes, on occasions in the past, what we've done is we've arranged for the staff to do some painting, they're entitled to so many volunteer hours.
So we like the corporate thing.
Yeah, and where the staff go in and do some stuff. We've been involved in sort of some litter picking type arrangements alongside the council actually. So we've done those type of activities. Laura Edmonds sort of pulls that together within our organisation, and she's always looking for stuff to get us involved in.
It'd be helpful to see, like, not just an exact breakdown, but some examples in writing as to what's happened. Because when we met last year, you did reflect on the importance of community work and social value. And so 1 year on, we've got some more information, but it's still very vague as to what has happened within the community. And £25 million turnover, that money has come from, the public sector and the assets that you manage.
Yeah, and all the money is retained. Even the money that goes down the road to Norfolk, it's all retained in the public sector. The Norse Group is a public sector group owned by Norfolk County Council. So their 3% goes back into the public sector their end, as much as your 3% goes back into the public sector.
Okay.
And all staff have the opportunity to have a day off volunteering every year.
In whatever, it's not necessarily a corporate day.
It doesn't have to be something organised specifically locally, but it could also be through the person.
Does anyone else have any other follow-up questions? Let me just check. Sorry, Heads the Whitehead, do you have any follow-ups?
No, sorry, Chair. No, you're all right.
That's okay. It's opinion.
The last slide in the report is St Andrew's School, the work that's being undertaken there. Just to give an example, because that's a very recent project that's been started, to give us an idea of the back up the information you passed on in this report. It's a big project the manager run. When you talk about local jobs, do you know again roughly how many people from the locality would have been employed to work on this project? This work would have to be subcontracted out to a company to undertake. Is the company that's carrying out work at St Andrews a local company?
Yeah, that's within the grant of that.
Yeah, and so the majority of the workforce will be within.
And the KPIs that we just showed there for the days of the project will be applied to that one as well.
Yeah.
So that's.
So then next year we would be able to come back and show you we'll give you an example of what St Andrews generated.
Yeah, and the Transport Bridge project again.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Interestingly, the contractor for the visitors, particularly on the visitor centre side of things, they just done a huge amount of stuff themselves off their own back. Sponsoring Pearl football team, various other things, various other
bank, there's all sorts of stuff like that. But
and they have
to get cash at the end of the project. Then.
Yeah.
Tracy, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it was just about governance, thanks, Chair. And partly to say Councillor Lucy's cabinet member is online but can't be seen.
Okay.
Fully.
It's omnipresent.
So I just wanted to mention that, and also that Norse attended cabinet member meetings most of the time actually, and we don't agree on these things as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, I think if there's no more for any more, I think we're good to go. Thank you very much for coming in to see us, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay with us, please. I've heard it's the best.
It is the best, it's not best cheap.
Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you. Bye. Best cheap. Okay, brilliant.
Anyone else want to?
I'll get some
I'm
more.
fine, thanks, Matt.
Oh my God. When I got it. My knees are older than this. I don't know.
Okay, brilliant. Right. Oh, Tracy, you're speaking as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's okay.
it's okay.
Also my area.
All your area. Do you want to sit with us, or are you?
No, I'll let the guys.
No worries at all. Okay, we're ready to go. Brilliant. So we'll move on to agenda item 5 now, which is the Safer Newport Draft Strategic Leads Assessment 2023. Online we've got Carl Williams joining us from Grant Police. And in the room we've got Helen, Janice and Reese is still here as well. Great. Do you guys want to kick off?
I'll kick this off. So
Oh, can I just mention, no discussion of any active investigations to be had during the course of us talking about this report. Thank you very much.
just in case. So yeah, thanks very much. So I'll introduce Janice and Helen. I think it's like, is this your first or second? First, so be gentle to Helen. Senior policy officer who's particularly supported by myself and Carl with safety, and Janice Helen, as you know, as partnership policy involvement manager for Newport City Council. And I suppose I'm here in my capacity with Chief Superintendent Williams as joint chairs of the Newport Student Safety Partnership, Safe Newport. So we share that role because it's really good that there's a shared capability across both. They're not the only statutory partners, Carl, within the Community Safety Partnership, but we've obviously got some really critical roles to play within that. Right, the reason we're here today, and I'll try to explain this in the simplest way as I possibly can, because I can make it sound more confusing than it actually is. The Crime Disorder Act 1998 requires us to have a scrutiny committee that has responsibility for overseeing community safety activity within the area. So not just the council's work, it's got a responsibility around the statutory parts of community safety partnership. You've undertaken that activity previously through the work of looking at one Newport's wellbeing plan that you've got with Safer Newport as part of that, and that was reported through the scrutiny committee. So both the wellbeing assessment and the updates and progress against that through there. Now we've moved to a Gwent public service, a Gwent wellbeing assessment. Our assessment of that has been that we need to strip that back so that it is community safety partnership now stands on its own again. So you will be having regular updates from Newport Community Safety Partnership on the activity we're undertaking and the progress we're making against some key objectives we're looking at. But the first thing we need to do is renew the Community Safety Strategic Needs Assessment, because that is a statutory responsibility. And as I said, it was undertaken through a wellbeing assessment, now it's going to be standalone. And what you've got, I suppose, for today, and Janice and Helen will talk through some of the detail, what you've got today is a bit of a progress check, so that you can have assurance that we're actually fulfilling our statutory responsibilities. We're on the right track, and for your input into things that we might have missed, things you think should be different, maybe some feedback on some of the engagement activities we want to take in, etc. Rather than that figure seems high, because obviously that will come as we go through this process, and this won't be the only time you see this. Jazz will talk through the timescales. This needs to go through a process now with yourselves and then cabinet and then council over the next 5 months. I think it will get to the point where we get. But just to be really clear, you have a statutory role within this work, and that's why it's going to be.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair. So yeah, the draft assessment is on pages 39 to 69 of your pack. And as Risa said, this is very much a draft, so you will see that there are still some sections to be populated, and also the analysis hasn't been done yet, so there is about kind of working with that. It's just part of the starting point. So we are asking if you would like to comment on the report, both from an assurance that the process is being followed, and like we said, if there's anything else that you want to see included before we bring the final copy back in March. So there's still engagement ongoing, there's been some engagement to get to where we are, but if Scrutiny are happy and once we've got this, we're going to have further engagement on what we think the data so far is showing as our key priorities. So once we've approved the findings and we look through and it's gone through council and cabinet next year, that will help us inform a local community safety plan and partnership action plan, then to be able to look at, okay, this is what it's telling us, but what are we going to do about it? And then looking at what resources we will need then, what policies, what strategies, to be able to effectively prevent and deal with any community safety issues across Newport. So alongside the development of this local plan, we're also working with partners on a regional level on the serious violence duty needs assessment. So you will see in the report there's a section that specifically says serious violence, because what we want to do within Newport is just have one plan rather than having two plans that say similar things. So that's developing at the same time as well, and we'll also be coming back to Scrutiny in March for some confirmation and some comment on that as well. So that's where we are at the moment. So I'm going to hand over to Helen, who's going to give you a little bit more detail, because Helen has coordinated most of this work.
Thanks, Chair. So we've been working with key stakeholders to help us to develop the draft copy that you've got in front of you today. And so included within that is criminal and internal and partner information that's been utilised to identify key issues and help frame the assessment as it stands. So as part of that development, we've engaged with residents and also Newport visitors as well, using community safety perception survey that we've had out. And that has been shared online and also in paper format. And so that has been promoted through social media and through different events in the summer that council employees have been at and officers have been present with. And so with the information that we've received to date, we've been able to identify 3 priority areas of community safety, and those are antisocial behaviour, serious violence, as mentioned, and violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence, because that at the moment is where the data is directing us. And as you will see from the draft, there is further information and there is further analysis that needs to be done before we can reach any conclusions moving forward. Okay, great, thank you. Before we take questions, I just want to say, obviously it's draft, I appreciate that, but some of the stuff about community cohesion that's coming out is really positive and definitely bucks the negativity that we see threaded through the media. So I just wanted to say it's really good to see that there in, as I say, black, white and multicolour. It's lovely, thank you very much. Okay, let's go around the table. Councillor Jurett.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this report is about looking at reducing risk to the community. What can you give me assurances that the risk of flooding to the community shouldn't be in this report?
The statutory responsibilities on number 5 statutory parts, the local authority, police, health, probation and such, that doesn't cover environmental factors or anything like that. So there is an area, so that would be the well-being this is essentially around gender safety acts.
So where in City Council would that be?
It's coming off, and when we bought it's in the when we bought local delivery plan.
Yeah, it's a part of our draft which I know came to scrutiny before, around the actions, and I know there's been some work that Neil's been supporting with our infrastructure team as well around what's happening internally with our partners in NRW as well to look at flood, and I think they're looking to arrange a further meeting with members about that specifically.
Okay, thank you. But just to say, so the scope of this is crime and antisocial. So there will be factors, there will be environmental factors that impact on that, and we will do some crossover specifically about those things.
Can I ask you?
Is it a follow-up on that one, or is it another topic?
It's a slightly different topic.
We'll go around and we'll come on to consider it. Thank you. Councillor Screen?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just reading through it, you talk about the range of themes, you know, antisocial behaviour, serious organised crime, safer pills, safer city centre, but there doesn't seem to be any mention at all of rural areas. And there are big rural areas in Newport East and also in Newport West. Now, it may be that the types of antisocial behaviour or serious crime are perhaps different in the city centres, but the absence of anything on rural areas does actually concern me. So what's is that something you would include in?
So we've tried to, in some of the engagement, we'll try to kind of have that information, and we will be, like I said, we'll be doing some analysis about the information this evening. So one of the things that we've tried to do is kind of work with residents in those rural areas. So we went out to ward meetings, etc., with the survey to try and get that, because often, as I know we talked about this before within this committee, you tend to hear from people that are living in the city centre as opposed to people and wider. So we went out to board meetings. We've also met with community councils, and they've been promoting it as well. So yeah, we've got the ability now with a data pack that isn't with this to be able to drill down as to if there are any specific issues that were specific to particular wards.
Yeah,
so yeah, we will be looking at that.
The community council, or are you going to?
No, we have. I have. So I went to the community council's liaison.
Yeah.
So the region.
Fine, thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just add that this is actually absolutely the reason for it to make sure there's the appropriate challenge in the system and make sure those things get done. Because if you look purely at data, the data will drive particular areas and particular activities. And what we cover the rural areas of people, because actually the crime levels are, there isn't any comparison between them, but how the impact it's having on those communities. That's why the analysis is so important. So it's making sure you cover the right things and then doing the right analysis with the right people to actually understand what those particular issues are. So it's really good.
Yeah, it may not be the quantity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's certainly in rural areas things happening, you know, which should be part of this approach.
Thank you, Councillor Screen. Councillor Davis, do you have any feedback or any suggestions regarding the consultation?
No, I'd once again like to say it is a good report, a comprehensive report. And what I like about it as well is with regards to feedback you've had, the graphs where we can actually, see visibly the difference in, different problems. And so yeah, I would like to say it's nice to be able to see that information as a graph, not as a percentage.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, Heather, we did a lot of research on that because we've seen some other strategic needs assessments that are kind of, hundreds of pages long sometimes, and it's all figures.
Yeah.
There's nothing that illustrates it and kind of breaks that up. So yeah, thanks.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Hussain, do you have any feedback or comments you'd like to make?
Just a comment. I just wanted to ask you mentioned you've had some surveys and consultation with the tourism. resident. Have you actually, you know, with the feedback you've had, have you actually addressed any of the issues that have come forward? I know you said like the serious crime and the three main issues, but apart from that, any other issues? There's also another thing, additional content to be added in a few of the sections.
That will come when it comes back in March.
That'll be in March.
Yeah.
Can I start? Councillor, if I start to answer it. What we've currently got is you know 6 priority areas in the current work, which was the kind of left over from the wellbeing plan. So we've got that, but the legislation requires us, well, legislation and common sense requires us to be responsive to emerging needs as well. So we've got a plan, and then we've got all the other stuff that we do as well. And you know, what we will do is through gathering the feedback. If there are emerging things and issues, they will get fed through to the current work we're doing. And I would say, I'm not just saying it's calm, it's on the screen, but you know, we've got Newport City Council and workplace have got an incredibly close working relationship around those things, and actually really responsive as well to emerging issues and actually working together to try and resolve those things. So I think I would say that's when you do clear any particular issues you look at, you know, we happily look at those things and you know, things other than in your ward not so long ago, a particular issue, and the next day there was not the agency meeting and you know, a range of interventions put in place. So it will all resolve the problems. We'll do what we can to try and do that.
It's just that the feedback that I'm getting from residents is that things are just taking too long to get sorted out with some of the issues specifically in my ward. It's like, I don't know, maybe there's obviously the procedure and things you know we have to go through, but a lot of residents do actually complain about why did things take too long to sort out in a few of the issues that are ongoing in my ward. It's just, you know, time.
It depends. It depends what the issue is. Some things will be, if they just think about deploying resource and engaging with people, they easy to do. Some of the issues around, you know, problem premises and, you know, and things like that, and they do take longer because there is a legal process you have to go through that.
With the antisocial behaviour, it's always like something in the background, maybe you know, alcohol and drug issues. So especially if something like cocooning of certain properties and things, everything just, you know, there is a procedure. I understand that, but sometimes it's hard to get that through to residents. So it's just going to make
One of the things that we've been working on this year, which is newer, is working on a contextual safeguarding approach. So it is about, and sometimes that can feel like nothing's happening, but it is about kind of all partners meeting together to look at what are those background kind of issues. So, and then looking at what we can all do together to be able to work on it. So things like, you know, can we increase some of the work that maybe people like is doing with the positive futures? You know, can we do more around kind of educating parents? Can we do? So we're looking at the wider kind of determinants, I guess, the wider risk factors and what interventions would actually work there. And that's, so far I think it's working, it is working really well. So we're kind of rolling that out, but it's like anything, isn't it? You kind of try new ways of, you know, kind of intervening and support as well. It's not just about the arresting people, is it? It's about kind of understanding and providing that appropriate support to change behaviour.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So yes, again,
yeah, just like to come back to you on that, Janice. I think what would be helpful, obviously as board councillors, we know our areas very well, and we know our trouble spots and our problem areas. Would you extend that an opportunity for us to discuss what feedback from our wards in terms of what we think help as councillors, maybe a meeting or some kind of get together whereby each ward could present to you what they think may be options solutions, because every ward's got different challenges and different geographical makeup and demographic. I think that would be very helpful, because as I said, it was quite a busy and congested place, Newport, but I know what the issues are in my ward. It's just trying to get them across to the perhaps like yourself. With regards to the report, obviously the date for COVID has kind of had a big impact on many of the areas of the report. The one area that's a concern of mine is modern-day slavery, whereby that's continued to increase. And I'm just wondering if that is because the police have dedicated extra resources to that type of crime, or it's to do with the changing demographic of Newport, which has changed quite dramatically over the past 30 years.
Do you want to come back on that, please?
If I respond to the first,
That'd be great, yeah.
and Chief Superintendent Williams might want to respond to the second bit. Sure. So that's a really good idea about engagement with all councillors about it. I think we just need to disaggregate. At the moment, we do the strategic needs assessment. So I think the conversation now will be what's going on in the wards that helps us do the analysis. And the next bit is we have to write a plan. So the next bit will then, right, okay, from your personal experience and sorts of things, what sorts of things can we do? So it's probably two conversations really around it, and then ongoing dialogue about it. I think that's a good idea.
Fabulous. Okay, sorry, Carl, do you want to come in on the second point regarding modern-day slavery? He's travelling, so that might be tricky. So maybe we can do a follow-up to that at some point. Would you be?
Yeah, that's fine. It was just one more point I wanted to bring up.
Is it on the same topic, or should we come back round?
No, I can probably answer.
Yeah, sure.
Carl, that will come in the end of it. So I think there's a series of things. We have got Newport has got a transient population, and that does lend itself to the sort of issues the councillor was saying, said then about cooking and those things like that happen. So I think that, and because it's the geography, because we're right there, I think that the geography, we're a silent dispersal area.
We're gateway city.
You're right. So there's all sorts of reasons why it might be a particular issue in Newport. I think there is additional. It's people are more aware. There is additional resource to look at this. It's probably higher levels of reporting as well. Those are the sort of things we're trying to tease out now of the analysis side, because that's really important. Because I think, as I said, you have a series of figures about things, but actually we need to get into the why. Because actually, it's only when you know the why you understand what sort of interventions you put in place to get an impact. So I think that is something that's particularly complicated. But also those particular issues of circumstances do play into quite a lot of the analysis of quite a lot of the things that go on in Newport, just because it's a city between Cardiff and Bristol, it's only M4, it's a gateway to Wales, it's a port, it's got a really transient population, a growing population, you've got all of those things in the mix, and actually they drive quite a lot of the other things that are going on as well.
Fabulous. Can we come back to you on your input? Sorry, Janice.
Just to say that Carl sent a message to say he's trying to answer, but he's got a microphone.
That's fine. Maybe you can follow up on.
Yeah.
Oh, we can follow up on that when it comes back.
It's similar. It's similar. Just related to what we.
Oh yeah, it's on the same topic.
I think what's difficult for Newport is there's not a comparable city within Wales in terms of population size and the challenges that we face. Probably Wrexham, you can probably put on par, even though Wrexham geographically population-wise is smaller. And so we've always been compared to Cardiff, Swansea, and Bristol with different size cities and so many different factors. Do you think it would be helpful if we could find other cities within the UK that have got a similar makeup to Newport to compare our figures to see if what we're experiencing in Newport is a norm, or we do differ in certain reported crimes, and try to work out why it's unique to Newport and it's not a national issue?
Yes, I'm going to give you an overly complicated answer to this, even though I haven't just answered it. Not it. Yes, and we've done that. I suppose there's nothing happening in Newport that isn't a national issue. It just might be happening in a different way in Newport. And bear in mind, the city, we talk about the city, is quite a compressed, reasonably small geographical area. Yeah, there are things happening in Newport that aren't happening elsewhere. It's just they're probably more in people's consciousness because.
Oh, we should have that, just being on that.
Just because in the geography of Newport as well, as Councillor Screen said, 70% of Newport is rural. We're a small city centre. But as I said, so there's nothing happening in Newport that's different right around.
Yes.
But we do. When we looked at the Gwent Public Service Board information, we would go into that and look at the data for Newport compared to the rest of Gwent. There is no comparison to the rest of Gwent. Because actually, if you're operating serious organised crime, this is kind of the head in the Newport. And do we compare the Cardiff? No, not at all. It's 3 times the size of us. But it looks different in Newport. We're a city in a reasonable way.
We twinned, I mean, it's Lisi and Hainan. I think it would be helpful if we would twin with other cities of a similar size within the UK, that we could share information, we could compare ourselves and strategies and projects that have started, that we could say, well, you've got the same challenges as us in Newport, what's working for you and what's not working.
This is where my answer gets really complicated. So look, we've done that. There's a couple of cities in England that are a pretty good comparison to Newport. So we've done that, not just for community cities, but broadly. What we tried to do with this is we look at it, and it's really good. We've both police on this. Is we look at a particular issue. We look at somewhere that's got that issue. So we might not go one place. We look at places that got that issue. We look at the things they've done. Because why the works, why reinvent them? We'll look at what's happened elsewhere. We'll try to introduce that into the implemented.
And for example, not to tread on your toes, Councillor, but e-bikes and e-scooters, I know we're looking at how London have treated that issue, and there's some learnings from that. Well, maybe
absolutely, and
Can you hear me now, Dave?
Oh,
yeah.
If I could come in, if now is an appropriate juncture, just to say in terms of the modern day slavery piece that you were talking about, we have done a huge amount of work to promote people reporting in, so we often see that as a positive. I know as perverse as it sounds, we do see that as a positive, that we're getting more reports of that proactive. And in terms of the comparison with other places, we look at our most similar groups, which compares demographics, compares size of force, and whilst that doesn't look specifically at Newport, it does look at other forces of a similar makeup in terms of so many different factors, and then compares to what's worked elsewhere and what hasn't worked, and likewise we feed into that regularly as part of the Home Office.
Carl, could you give us an example of a city that you have looked at in terms of a similar setup and model than Newport?
I knew you were going to ask that, Councillor, next. Yeah, that it's probably a Cleveland, similar in terms of, and I'm not sure, one of the cities in Cleveland is very, very similar in terms of demographic, former kind of mining industry or heavy industry, and similar kind of socioeconomic issues, and we look at all of that type of stuff. And then compare what they're looking like in terms of crime levels. We get that right down to individual crimes, crime types, and look at what's worked in those areas, and have a big database across the UK, and that's actually publicly available recently. So I'm happy to share that with you, so you can see what we look like as a comparator as well in terms of the crime picture, if that would be helpful.
That would be great.
Sorry, is that Cleveland as an area or the city in Cleveland?
Cleveland is an area. There is a specific city. There is a specific city as well. I would be making it up if I were to name the city. I'm not sure that it's Hartlepool or one of those, but it's definitely a city in Cleveland.
Middlesbrough.
If you can send it over, that would be brilliant. Is that okay? Okay, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say on the e-waste then, obviously Superintendent Jason White came to the last council meeting to talk about, you know, the work that they're doing. And that's really work from other forces.
Yes. Councillor Whitehead, do you have any observations on the report or anything you'd like to feed in regarding the consultation?
Just on that, the conversation that's just finished there, we're noticing a lot of cannabis factories being raided lately. We find
sorry, Councillor Whitehead, we can't talk about any ongoing police investigations or any incidents that are currently under legal review.
You know, my observation was, are we finding that people operating in them places are indeed part of modern day slavery? It's a sensible question to ask.
Chair, I can probably just say exactly as you've just said, I'm afraid. A number of those are still ongoing, so it would be remiss of me to talk about it or subdue this, really.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my other observation is around the strategic needs assessments. We often lament the fact that we got ASB right throughout Newport on the estates. I mean, ASB within the city centre and on the estates, I think there is obviously a difference. And we have to counter this. Engagement is a big thing. I find that a lot of people will openly engage on social media platforms with quite bravely, but often they won't take part in engagement pushes when you put it out there, so to speak. But on the news forums, they'll have a hell of a rant, and sometimes I think it's worth observing them platforms, and you can actually gauge from them platforms what the feeling is, what's the issues. I mean, for me, we've tried this on Bettis, for example. We've created a community garden for residents to use, and it's noticeable that there's a certain age group that uses that, you know, and it is the older generation. But when you do and talk to the kids, they'll say about the youth clubs, because the youth clubs have been scaled back. I don't think anybody can deny that. We used to have, even 4 years ago, we'd have 80 attendees at our local youth club. That's been scaled right back, and so likewise the numbers have scaled right back. So I think when we look at strategic needs, that is part of what that is, that we should be engaging more with these kids and opening them up rather than taking them back. I know finances are restricted, but it's all good us moaning when we use that as an excuse often. Maybe we have to find the finances because it will offset damages that occur within our communities. I also feel, just as a sub note, that the police will now have another challenge again, because with the new legislation around these gas canisters that the kids have been taking, which I have picked up thousands, that's going to also, now that's going to be part of another thing for them to be policing, whether people are doing that. So to be honest, I don't think the modern policeman's got a massive job today. As I've said in the past, they're not just policemen today feeling collars, they're social workers, drug advisors. There are multitude of jobs they have today, and I'll always support our police. These are difficult times, but the antisocial behaviour for me and offsetting it is one of our biggest challenges. I really do believe that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think accept that it's one of our priorities under the current arrangements, and I can't imagine it will be a priority in the ongoing arrangements. And you know, when we're looking at service provision, we need to look at the cost of that service provision in the total of money. Because you know, the cost of delivering this service, what's the cost of not delivering that service in that place at that time? And the impact of other organisations and agencies, and you know, and the social impact of it as well. Yeah. And you know, and that's complicated to capture in something like this, but it's really cool. So, for example, we're trying to do a bit of a community safety partnership at the moment around, you know, triage in the city centre, like on the left-hand corner. So, you know, somebody decides to have one too many drinks, and a police officer gets engaged with that, and the police officer has a way to try and get that person maybe to hospital or A&E or whatever. And that's like on two police officers on our city centre.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so actually we get some triage provision within the city centre. And obviously they've got a DPUK that they can't just leave them. So we get some triage provision within the city centre, then we're not using police officers from the city centre. We're trying to work through some of that the impact that has across the system.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back round at that.
Oh, it's just on that, no,
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come. So in terms of the consultation, we're talking about how it's run and all that sort of stuff. Can you tell me about how you're reaching our hard to reach, I'm obsessed with this, hard to reach communities, overcoming language barriers, cultural barriers, that sort of thing? Is there any work ongoing? Are we, I don't know, visiting mosques or schools or anything like that? Do you want to take that in?
I think that the survey that we've done so far has been, through the summer in different ways, and has been available in English and Welsh. But in terms of communities, kind of languages, we haven't done as much of that at present. That's not that we haven't got the time to develop that moving forward.
I think I'd like to see that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Just because some of our measures around community cohesion, sense of place,
yeah,
that would be really important, I think, to get a proper balance of things.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. And if we can help or offer any advice, let us know. Okay, Councillor Direct, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I've got another question, and it's about emerging themes. Well, not so much emerging themes, but something that's hatched already. E-bikes and scooters. Now we've got the active travel routes that I think are absolutely marvellous. But what's happening are e-bikes, scooters being used by some badly. And we've had lots of questions asked about this, previous council meetings, previous committee meetings, and this is such a difficult problem for the police to deal with, for us to deal with, and I wonder what actual practical measures need to be taken now, maybe legislative measures, not here, but at national level, to actually address this issue of e-bikes and scooters being used in an antisocial way.
I mean, I'm sorry, Councillor Stewart, just to add there, we know that there's nothing in the King's Speech yesterday, so there's no legislation imminent. So, am I supposed to start for Carl? Would you?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, Chair, I can reiterate really what Jason White recently said and what I've said previously at council meetings around this. This is really difficult. This isn't something that is exclusive to Newport, but something that does really affect Newport and Newport residents. I know there's a feeling in terms of people's safety then with these individuals. There's a positive Gwent Police in that we've seen very few incidents involved in the most serious crime. I accept that's of little consolation to residents and to elected officials in the area. We've seized over 100 so far this year across Gwent, and we do everything we can to reduce the numbers and to take the strongest action we can against people who are on these bikes wherever we possibly can. But it is something that has happened, happening across the UK, and we work with not only with Newport Council, but with a number of different partners in terms of intelligence, in terms of trying to prevent it from happening in the very first instance.
Thank you, and I should have said congratulations because you have had some good success over the summer as well with the Operation Hardy stuff. So, is there anything you can add or ask?
Yeah. Would legislation, clear legislation, help you in taking action?
I think the legislation probably it's just a real clear balance between taking, if somebody, and I've said this quite openly, if somebody runs a red light on one of those bikes versus somebody commits a crime whilst utilising one of those bikes, there's a very different offences. I know that's not always what the public want to hear and want us to take action in every respect, but we just try and be as proportionate as we can, and make sure that we're appropriate, safeguarding the individuals on the bike, plus taken that action where we need to, and we try and focus on the intelligence led wherever we can. But I think the legislation, to answer your question, Councillor, does exist in its current format. The only bit that would potentially help us, of course, is if there was some legislation around the purchasing of those vehicles and the prevention, unless you had a driving licence, and the only sale would be the ones that had insurance, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chair, can that be a part of the recommendations then of this committee?
I suppose we can add this to our, well, when you guys come back in March, we can add that in there with the actions, and we obviously we can't make legislation such as we'd probably like to.
And I think, you know, we're already starting to work on that education side of things, because I don't think it's always completely known by parents what the legality is around scooters and bikes. So we're working, and I know coming across that we're pleased to do the same thing, but there's a lot of material going out now and a lot of education that being done around to try and educate parents on that.
Because a child, a Jewish child, can get a driving ban effectively.
Yeah, and you can walk into Kelly's and buy one, so it is responsibility. Yeah, so we're trying to work with that. We've also managed really successfully in Team Secret Streets 5 Home Office funding to be able to support that working with parents and with our children and young people in schools as well. So we are, you know, apart from the kind of legislative, we're trying to work on that prevention as much as possible and education element.
Thank you. Right, let me just, is it on e-scooters? Yeah, go for it, Matt.
I think, let's be honest with you, I mean, not every young person on an e-bike or scooter is a criminal, even though most of them dress.
Technically, they're illegal to use, so it is breaking the law to use them.
Every young person on a bike then.
Is it something illicit?
Yeah, but where can you go and ride if I'm an adventure in Newport? I mean, let's be honest, in the east of Newport, there are no facilities available. And you mentioned we can go round in a circle, or a semicircle, but I mean, where can you go? We've got no bike tracks, but you mentioned earlier that 7% of Newport's rural. Why can't we, cross-agency in partnership, build something for young people to go and use these bikes and have some fun, burn some energy? There's got to be somewhere within Newport, especially I would say in east of Newport, because in the west of Newport you've got Treaty Park and there is a skate park, and we've got nothing in east of Newport. So as much as we're criticising and let's say not criticising and hassling young people for being on bikes and riding on pavements and riding across traffic, is what are we doing for them? And what can we do over the next 5 years? Carl, I'm not sure if there's something that could be done, is maybe some of the money from the proceeds of crime could be directed into building facilities.
Matthew, what you're saying there, I've had conversations over a couple of years about this, because obviously I live on Bettis, we are right next to the countryside, and the amount of bikes that are chewing up the locality, we've had to have giant barriers installed to stop them accessing fields and stuff. And what you just said is the same old argument. Where can we go then? Why don't they do something that this could be controlled? And I think that's the big word. They could do these. They could have their fun in a controlled environment. It is a big ask because, like we said, Mr. Cornwall said it earlier on, is everything is about money, and we are living under constraints more than ever today, but particularly around the cost of living crisis. So everything is about money, but sometimes the saying is, where there's a will, there's a way. And if funding could be sourced, whatever, and bearing in mind, if the impact is a good impact, it's got to be worth it, rather than tearing up, like I say, the locality. We've had to have mini fences put up here to stop them going into like Halford Square, for example, on the grass there, churning it up. But that costs money. Newport City Homes did that, but that cost them money, which ultimately is then passed on down to the tenants. So I think it is a conversation that is very much worth having. And this, maybe it can happen, it can be a reality, but this has been a conversation that's gone on, but nothing ever comes of it, which is a little bit, a bit gutting, really.
I think we could be ambitious, and I think, like I said, proceeds of crime. I mean, if we're putting these, people off their scooters and taking off their drugs and the cash that they're generating from the drug trade, let's use that money and build something for young people to use in a positive way.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any further follow-ups? follow-up questions?
There was just one thing I wanted to mention, again, this bit APOX, but I mean, unfortunately, because of the cost of living crisis and the economic situation, our city centre is struggling like loads of other city centres across the UK. We've got a lot of empty buildings at the moment. I think what would be helpful for a safe in Newport would be if one of these buildings and probably shops could be used by the police, again, cross-agency, paramedics, police, that could be positioned there on weekends, especially when they know it's going to be a busy weekend. You know, like I said, it could be a Six Nations game, it could be the summer, and that could be used as a triage centre for people to pop in if they're feeling a bit unsafe. That you've got Newport Central, but before they remain, you know, I've been past maybe fire station again the other day, knocked the door a few times, rang the doorbell, nobody answered, there's no staff there. If there was somewhere bang in the city centre that was close to the pubs and the clubs, that people, if they weren't sure, if they weren't feeling safe, if they were feeling intimidated, or they just needed assistance, there are staff there waiting to help people, either get them home or just to assist them during that hour. I think there's enough facility, enough places within the city centre that maybe for the next year could consider such a scheme.
And I wonder as well if that ever did come to fruition, whether the drug and alcohol service, you know, that might be a place as well, sort of safe in Newport, where we're able to support people with wider and things like that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So there is a Safer City Centre group, chaired by Matthew Crippin. It's one of the things they're looking at. Being on, we had Safer Streets 3 money for the streets playtime ambassadors.
Yeah, and I just had serious reference to
So we got staff, we got people, right, in it, and they funded initially through Home Office and Military Office, Police Crime Commissioner. Yeah, I was that for the
Home Office, yeah.
Home Office. Home Office funding, working through people now a bit. So that's been really successful. I think we were physical reporters in the data, and we were circulating that as well. So that's been really successful. One of the things that has been tasked is trying to get this sort of triage centre sorted out. So it's exactly that. Yeah. I couldn't put any time scale on it, but that's what we're looking at, because it's basically we're identifying the premises at the moment, and another empty premises in the city centre as well. And then there need to be a piece of work there about trying to bring those resources.
I think it'd be a good place for people to chat with the police, to drop in that conversation if you're out for a few pints in the afternoon or whatever. I mean, it could be a mixture of different.
And the wider well-being as well, like the drug and alcohol service.
Yeah. And as you know, and I declared an interest earlier, I work for the fire service all the time, because we have to deal with an awful lot of suicide attempts that are asked from the different bridges that cross it. Again, before people get to that point, if it was someone within the city centre they felt as if they could go before they got that far, again, intervention is better than.
No, absolutely. I'm going back in time now, but it's about something I remember the street pastors.
Yeah.
Looking at as well. So it's trying to look at some of those things that work.
Yeah, you might get volunteers.
Yeah, they can get themselves. Yeah, that's really good. So.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have anything else?
Sure.
No? Is that all useful? That was a lot of stuff.
And just to follow up, if you did want to come out to award meetings and all that kind of, it'd be really useful.
I think it'd be really handy if we could have a chat with you again at award meeting.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you. Okay, so should we move back up the agenda now onto agenda item 3, which are the minutes from our last 2 meetings. And we'll just whip through these. So we're onto page 3 of the agenda now, agenda item 3. So if I just go, anyone got anything on page 1, page 2, page 3 of the minutes, so it's page 6 of the agenda, page 7 of the agenda. Are we past? That's the meeting of the 4th of October.
Yeah. Chair, just very quickly, and I know that we've discussed this personally. The comments that I fed back about the purple flag, even though that I directed him at Union, I was just hoping that that may be able, because I don't know who is involved with the purple flag scheme, but may be able to take on board my feedback. Any suggestion?
I think nighttime economy in city centre falls under councillor Mudd. So purple flag would be councillor Mudd as well.
Yeah, but would that information be passed on? Again,
I can share the.
Chat with Jane.
Yeah, it's best to catch up with the leader about it, I think, if that's okay. Brilliant. So, would like anyone propose? All right, second. Amazing. On to the minutes of the 10th of October. So that's page 9 of the agenda. Anything on there? Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. And then page 13. All happy? Proposer? Seconder? Fabulous. Neil, have you got anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, it's just the comments.
Oh, we haven't done the recommendations of the 2 reports, sorry.
Absolutely.
I got ahead of myself then.
For the North's agenda item, we've got Councillor Screen's comment about the ratio of female employees lived in
Quality diversity data across the organisation. So you're looking at, male, female, possibly ages, ethnic groupings, that type of thing. So you get a feel of the composition of the workforce.
problem. So Lyndon said he would get back to us. Councillor Davis said you're pleased that they do the paper-based feedback, as some generations still do things paper-based. Councillor Perry mentioned you'd be interested to see some examples of community work.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of vague.
Yeah, they said that they donated £5,000 in kind, but they didn't give any examples to where that money's going.
That one was for Bayside, wasn't it? That one was for the Bayside project.
Yeah, so off the back of that is whether they've done anything within the community. Because last year when I raised it, they said that they were aware of it and they were going to do more, but a year on.
Was that related, Matt, specifically, just if you go back to them, on the social value bit, there was the line that said it was £1,800 worth of staff hours, they said they've been paid. So it's related specifically to that.
But again, just some examples as to where they've done it.
Nice, wouldn't it?
Because the staff, if they've done that, then where do they go? You must know.
That's on NTW 747.
Thank you. Was there any other comments, recommendations that you would like to leave in regards to the North report?
I would like, I think I've emailed you this as well, with some clarity around, when the meeting opened, Lyndon told us 80% of residents, Newport residents are employees. We don't dare, we've got 42. I'd just like to ensure that Cabinet are fully, I'm sure they're fully aware, but I would just like, how do I say this, for them to know that maybe the report could do with an update, shall we say.
At the Newport City Council, I mean, people are living in risk, they're not.
They're not Newport, no. MP postcode in Newport City is very different.
Yeah, but Worcester is Worcester is an MP postcode.
It's an MP postcode, but it's not in our authority boundary, I mean. Yeah, he said 80% of their employees were residents of Newport. Yeah, so I would really like that. Sharp and done. Yeah, and did
well, a lot of countries basically double the
amount. I mean, the 18 million is pretty.
Pardon? No, Newport City Council boundary, he said, not Newport East, he said Newport City Council boundary, not constituencies. But yeah, fair point, Pat. But yeah, I do feel that the Cabinet member, I would like to see that corrected wherever that's printed. I'm really sure that information is correct, and that's okay.
The only question I did raise, it's not that important, so if you don't go ahead with it, was many of the staff currently work from home, hybrid, in terms of and what support they give their staff. The breakdown, I think they mentioned that 320 staff employed, 140 of those are part-time. So the rest of those, I mean, because obviously they're saving more money again if they're not. If they're working from home, what support they give their staff.
Can we send that as a follow-up to them?
That's right, yes. So is it working from home? Would that be full-time working from home?
Yeah, full-time working from home.
Do you mean full-time is they always work from home or full-time employees?
So full-time employees, how many of them full-time work from home? Because again, with the kind of money they're generating, is that they're making that a saving? What support they're giving their staff off the back of that?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With the Safe and Newport report, Councillors, we mentioned that there was no mention of rural areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, would they include that? Councillor Davis, comment on the report. So Councillor Davis, you mentioned that you'd like to see figures instead of graphs?
No, graphs instead of figures.
Yeah.
Figures.
I said the report was, to me, a lot better than just knowing percentages. The graph you can see something visible.
Thank you very much. Councillor Piller mentioned about examples of a similar city. Carl mentioned Cleveland, so we would send details over for us. And yourself, Chair, you mentioned about it being done in different languages. It's currently just done in Welsh, but you said it's important to get a proper balance.
I'd imagine we have a lot more people that speak
Urdu
and Arabic.
Yes, and I know
Welsh. But I know Welsh is
right in saying that you also asked how they engage with the new populations in Newport.
Well, it's not necessarily, no, not the new population, it's the hardest to reach population.
Yeah. Does that have an impact on the data that they're getting? The one thing I didn't mention is whether they actually go around communities and updoors, how they consult. Is it just put a link and helping people fill it in?
That's in the report. They do it via the bus Wi-Fi. They get it to community events. I think they were at Pride. They were at the Woodfront event last week. Things like that.
Yeah,
but it's all in the report. And it's
whether or not they go to social behaviour hotspots and knock the doors there, like we would like in the fire service with a hot strike, for example.
They probably don't, because of resource, but it's worth asking, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite low numbers there for those consultations.
Absolutely. So we need to make sure we're getting everywhere that we can get.
Yeah.
I agree. Brilliant.
And again, the PCSOs would help them do that, because they, as more councillors, PCSOs have said they'll come and knock doors and hotspots and gauge community opinions.
That's okay.
The other issue that I raised was what we're doing to help counteract antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, I think Neil's going through them in order as we got to them, yeah. You're right, Councillor Whitehead. You need to come in and join us one day. It'd be lovely to see you.
Well, if the M4 is my nemesis, getting from that Severn Bridge, that's my problem. Anyway, for me, they would have been interesting to know, the reporting, anonymous reporting. I'd like it'd be nice to know some figures around that, numbers. Do people actually anonymous report? Because I often put it out there when people say, well, we can't tell anybody because they might know where I live, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you have the option to anonymously report. And I've put this out there many times, but having thought about it, it would be interesting to know some figures around the numbers of people anonymously reporting. I think that would be interesting for us all to know that, because people are quick to moan on social media. Do they actually anonymously report?
Councillor Whitehead, is that something maybe that is worth bringing up at police questions at the next full council? Maybe they can follow that with the written report, just just because we're not looking to get this back till March now and it'll have all the process.
Yeah, it'd be good, because I'd like to see that on paper, but I could do that, I suppose, yes.
Or in your, when we have our local police inspector meetings, I don't know,
Well, if you can get hold of, if you can get, hey, sometimes it's like the Scarlet Pimpernel, and I'm going to be honest about that. Lately, sometimes I don't know how busy they are, but sometimes I don't get no feed. We've just lost Paul Turner now, and I used to be able to contact him on his personal phone, but he's gone central now. But sometimes, you know, we just can't get hold of them.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Councillor Screen?
Sorry, Chair, we're on Save in Newport.
Yes.
Yeah. Point I raised about rural.
Yes, we've done that one.
You've got that, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I think it's just an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
You know, the
And also
safe
looking at
rural
rural
areas.
crime as well, you know?
Councillor Drury mentioned about e-bikes, and Carl said they're already working with the education side of things, and they're going to look into about the legal side of e-bikes.
Yes, I don't know where to go, Chair, with that. I mean, should you know, should we try to involve the MP on this?
I know, obviously from clearing an interest, I work with Jessica Morden. She does raise it frequently in House of Commons, and we were hoping for legislation, the Labour Party, but that hasn't come through. So maybe that's something for, without getting political, the next government, so to speak. But it's definitely a campaign might be worth speaking to your MP on your side of town.
Yes, I can do it. On my side.
On your side.
Yeah, it is one city.
It is one city, absolutely. But two constituencies. Okay, yes, sorry, Karen.
And lastly, Reece mentioned about Safer City Centre group, which is chaired by Matthew Crickland, and he said he can send the report over about the community safety, so I'll chase Reece about that and I can send it to the committee.
Okay.
Was there anything else that you'd like me to add in regards to that?
The one-on-ones with the wards, not the one-on-ones, sorry, the ward councillors meeting with the group to offer their feedback about their board.
Thanks very much. I'll relay that back.
That's wonderful, thank you. Sorry, there's some quick.
No, it's okay.
So we go on to item where we are 7.
Yeah. Just to advise the committee of the action sheet. For the work programme first, the next meeting is on Wednesday, the 6th of December at 5 o'clock. We've got violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence. Then meeting after that will be Wednesday the 7th of February at 5 o'clock again. Area Planning Board Substance Misuse are bringing their first report to the committee, alongside with the SENCOM Regional Support Services for Children. Again, this will be the first time that this has been brought to the Partnerships Committee. Then we've got the action sheet. Majority of the actions now are completed. In regards to the flood risk, the flood risk, I can't remember what's called out of the top of my head. So we've got the flood risk strategy being renewed. It's coming to the place of corporate committee in February next year. So what we're doing, we're going to see if we can arrange training for all members in regards to flood risk mitigations. What Newport Council are planning on doing, so we're trying to organise something with Jan, Stephen, Jab's team as well.
I know you told me that before.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I just still wanted, I'm asking the question.
Yeah, and that's everything on my chair.
Brilliant. Okay, so any other business?
No, I'm not available on the 6th of December. So
No worries at all,
apologies,
thank you.
thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for, well, I thought that was really great tonight. So thank you everyone for taking part, and yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you everyone online as well.
Okay, right. Sorry.